we want to get to one of our favorite features. We used to do it all the time when Jen Psaki was the press secretary. She's been gone for a while. I actually miss her because she was a much more competent press secretary.
And always good for content, though.
Good for content. But, you know, she did her job well. Her job was to protect and defend the Biden administration. She would frustrate those of us who knew that some of the things she said weren't true. But at least she came across as having thought about what she was saying, compared to Karine Jean-Pierre, who I don't know if she thinks at all. But Jen is now doing, surprise, working as an analyst on MSNBC. So the first thing she did was say something this week that I'm not sure she intended to tell this little bit of truth, but here she is.
Note, President Biden does nothing at 9 a.m. He is a night owl. So the fact that he is doing this at 9 a.m. anyway speaks to how vital the White House recognizes it is for him to have his voice out there, conveying that to the American public.
All right, Steve Ratner, thank you.
This is because the president was going to say something at 9 in the morning, which for most of us is kind of late in the day. But for him, she makes it clear he doesn't do anything that early. He doesn't get up and going that early because he's a night owl. Well, the problem with that is that there have been articles that indicate that his daily routine is anything but that of a night owl. And here's the headline. Joe Biden's White House routine for morning coffee, reading letters, and going to bed early. Now, either Jen didn't know that he's really not a night owl. He's kind of like a vampire. He goes to sleep early. But it just doesn't all work together. Now, she's good for comedy because she is talking about MSNBC and their wonderful standards of journalism. This is laughable. Watch.
So if your boss is an MSNBC, which is sort of sometimes called like a liberal Fox, I don't think it's entirely fair. If you were asked to do any of that stuff, what would you say?
I would say no, but I would never be asked that.
But I'm asking, it's a hypothetical.
Well, I don't do hypotheticals, A.
Okay.
But B, look, I think this is an important piece to dive into because MSNBC has a very high standard of what is factual. You have to go through a process before you report things on air.
Oh, absolutely, because they would never let something like this happen from Rachel Maddow. Watch.
Instead of the virus being able to hop from person to person to person, potentially mutating and becoming more virulent and drug-resistant along the way, now we know that the vaccines work well enough that the virus stops with every vaccinated person.
Those are those high standards over at MSNBC. Rachel Maddow speaking with such authority. My gosh, you would think she was an epidemiologist, the way she was telling us how that the virus will jump from human to human, but once you've had the vaccine, pow, it stops. It's dead in its tracks. Well, that's funny. I got the vaccination, and then a few months later, I ended up getting COVID.
Me, 3 weeks ago, remember?
Yeah.
I did. I had the vaccination.
You know, so
COVID
like,
for a week, man.
What a lie. We've been lied to a whole lot about the vaccinations, and, you know, maybe it prevented from getting it worse than it would have been. That's why I took it, because I had pneumonia before, compromised lungs. So when it first came out, I said, you know, had friends that died from COVID, so maybe this is a good thing. And maybe it still was. I don't know. But this is a huge lie to say that we know so much about it that if you get the vaccination, you can't get COVID. And so, sorry, MSNBC, but your journalistic standards, well, they're just not that good after all. Not even close. I want to get to this one other clip before we go to some more questions. The border is a big deal. That's why Congressman Mark Green is going to be on our show this weekend on TBN. You do not want to miss it. He held hearings down on the border this week, and Democrats were supposed to join in these congressional hearings, and they were being held at the border. The last minute, all the Democrats, every last one of them, decided not to go. Now, if they really are concerned about the border and the people who are coming across and the humanitarian crisis, don't you think they should show up? So why didn't they? It's because they're scared to death of the truth. The truth will chase them. Well, the truth was there, And first of all, we get some video. This is hundreds, if not thousands of migrants crossing over the border. I mean, if this is not an invasion, I don't know what is. Look, there's no stopping them. These are just masses of people cheering and yelling. Hey, because they've hit pay dirt. They've made it to the United States. And when they do, we're going to feed them, clothe them. We're going to house them. We're going to educate their kids. It's going to be gravy train from here on out. Your tax dollars will pay for it, by the way. Well, Mark Green asking all the Democrats why they weren't there. This is Congressman Green. As I say, he'll be on our show. And this is him at the hearing this week down in South Texas.
Now, this was supposed to be a full committee, but as you can see, the Democrats are not here. They decided to not show. Why? Well, they said coming here was just a political stunt. You tell me, taking a hearing to the point of the crisis for a first-hand view, or boycotting a hearing because you know we're going to shine a light on the truth. Which of those is the political stunt? I'd say the political stunt is these empty chairs.
Couldn't agree more. Boy, do I have plenty to talk to Congressman Green about. And by the way, if that's not a stunt, listen to Karine Jean-Pierre from the podium of the White House. I'm just amazed that she has the audacity to say this, and even more amazed that the reporters in the room didn't laugh at her like she was Dave Chappelle at a comedy concert.
We're going to secure the border and do the work. You've heard from Mayorkas on this. Do the work, Secretary Mayorkas on this. Do the work to continue to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're going to do it. You've been in office for 2 years, and we're ready for you to do the work, whatever that work is, but you haven't found it yet, and you certainly haven't secured the border.
Absolutely.
All right, let's get to some questions.
All right, Darcy Carlson asking this afternoon, what would it take to dismantle most of the three-letter acronyms of the federal government and hold them accountable?
Ooh.
Wow.
A congressional cessation of their appropriations. In other words, cut off their money. That's what would do it.
Absolutely. All right, Katie is asking, shouldn't we really be blaming those surrounding Biden? Does he really know what's going on? Dementia is a terrible disease.
I'm not going to diagnose him because I don't know if he's got dementia. I don't. I know that he says things that don't make sense. I know that he seems to have some physical challenges getting upstairs and even moving. He walks like a person does when they are addled. But I'm not a doctor, so I'll not diagnose him with a particular condition. But obviously, the people around him, their job is to protect him. But there comes a point at which they need to protect the American people even more. And I wonder who's looking out after us. If the president is really unaware of a lot of the things that he's doing and saying, and he's apparently unaware of a lot of it, that is of concern. Not for one political party over the other, but really for the stability of the country. Hey, Mike Huckabee here. Listen, if you love your mom, apple pie, and being conservative, you know you ought to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and click the like button, and show all the leftists out there that conservatives are thriving and patriotism is far from dead. Am I pandering too much? No way. I'm just getting started.